good, Ada Brew, baby? What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck lists of the Commander in front of us on my quest out brew the magic rum. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below, as well as I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider doing all that YouTube stuff. I'd appreciate it. But today, we're releasing two different versions of Tiamat today. You're watching the no-budget version. Today I also released a regular, kind of like more towards our normal budget on the channel version of Tiamat. Both of them are a lot of fun. 5-color dragons. Tiamat is a big 7-mana 7/7 dragon that when it comes in, if it was cast, we can search for our library up to 5 different dragon cards not named Tiamat that have different names and put them into our hand. So the world's our oyster, getting to search, get all the dragons we want. And in this one, we're definitely spending the money on getting the dragons, especially the dragons we do want, the ones that are going to create a ton of value for us and get them into our hands so we can put a lot of value in. We're going to talk about how we're going to ramp and fix so we can get to 5 colors, play all the dragons we want. And then we'll talk about how to get our dragons in with haste so they can really attack our opponents the turn they come in and deal big damage. But I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in checking out all of our videos a little bit early for just $1 a month, consider checking it out down below. The first slide should tell you the big difference between this and the other video released today, which is, of course, we're playing Copper Dragon. Almost $100 on its own, but a great dragon. When it hits a player, you roll D20. Make that many treasures. We're playing one of its other counterparts in Ancient Silver Dragon. Whenever it hits a player, you roll a d20 and then just draw that many cards, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. These are the kind of dragons that are only going to take one hit to really change the game, and I think why our haste enablers can become so important. Astral Dragon comes in and makes 2 copies of any non-creature permanent, except they're 3/3 dragons in addition to their other types, those tokens. There's a lot of great scenarios of what you can do with Astral Dragon. Of course, there's the meme of using it to make a token doubler like Parallel Lives or Doubling Season. But in our deck, I think we have some great key targets, things like Dragon Tempest or even some Mana Rocks just to get more value on our board, right? And keep the process going forward. Broodcaller Scourge may look odd, but it's a 7-mana 5/7 that says whenever one or more of our dragons hit a player, we can put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that damage from our hand onto the battlefield, just letting us cheat more of our dragons in, trading more of our permanents in, and just making our board state better overall. Cavern Horde Dragon's a big 9-mana dragon that gets reduced by X, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent's controls. And then when it hits a player, we make a treasure for each artifact they control. It's a really fun ability. It's going to punish all those treasure and food and Clued X running around, right? And Horde Dragons does a great body, especially if your opponent only has a couple mana rocks. You know, you're having this come in as a 7-mana 6/6 or a 6-mana 6/6, which is well worth the value. Gain X makes a treasure whenever it or another dragon comes in. A great ability to help fix our mana, right? Especially with those treasures tapping for anything. Hellkite Courser might be a little bit more useful in some other decks where your commander does things on ETB. Remember, Tiamat only does its ability in ETB if it's cast. But the nice thing about the Courser is it gets to put our commander on the battlefield with haste to let it attack and do some things, and it goes back to the command zone. We don't have to take the tax because we never cast it. So we just get a free turn to attack with Tiamat if it's not already out, just getting some big value and hurting our opponents. Karthus, Tyrant of Jund, gives all of our other dragons haste and gains control of all dragons when it comes in. A really fun ability. Allow us to get haste another way. Klauth is an absolute mana powerhouse. Whenever it attacks, we get X mana in any combo of colors, where X is the total power of attacking creatures. We can only spend that mana to cast spells, though, and we don't lose it as steps and phases end, but it can really fund a huge turn for us, getting down our dragons. Miram, one of the most popular dragon commanders, fits well into the deck. Whenever a non-token dragon comes in, you get a copy of it. The copy is non-legendary if the dragon's legendary. Just a great commander in its own right and a great value dragon for us here. Same thing with old Gnawbone. Whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, we make that many treasure tokens. Gnawbone is one of those creatures that as soon as you have it on the board for one combat, you'll understand why it's so useful, netting you all those treasures, giving you all that mana to just take off the turn that you do. Ramos is a 6-mana 4/4 dragon. It says whenever you cast a spell, you put a counter on it for each color that spell is. And then you can take 5 counters off of Ramos to add Wooburg twice, just netting a ton of mana and hopefully funding a big turn for you. Scion of Draco comes in for 2 less for each basic land type we control, so a minimum down to 2 in this deck, and then gives each dragon of a different color a certain certain ability based upon its color. All of them are very useful, especially Hexproof for blue, Lifelink for black, white for Vigilance for white. A lot of really great abilities there. Of course, we're playing Scion of the Ur-Dragon. We've got to play a couple of our 5-color dragons in this deck. Scion lets you pay 2 to go search for a dragon and put into your graveyard. And if you do, Scion becomes a copy of it. Scion is great because it can go search for these things and put them into your graveyard. We are in 5 colors, so we do have ways to get them back. But Scion, again, just becomes a copy of it, meaning that you can really utilize the fact that you become a copy of it usefully, right? And then use that value that turn. And we do have ways to get things back out of the graveyard. Of course, we got to play Skittles, having Infect, being able to give itself haste for a black mana. And this Infect threat, especially if we can buff Skittles up, is going to be a real threat to our opponents. Twin Flame Tyrant are going to double the amount of damage we deal to our opponents. A great ability to have in Fold, especially with some of the other dragons in the deck that can dole out damage. Ureni, when it comes in or attacks, lets us look at the top 8 and put a dragon from among them onto the battlefield and then put the rest back on bottom. Ureni is a great commander in its own right, getting a lot of popularity with Tarkir Dragonstorm, and it fits really great in the Fold to continue to allow us to cheat out more dragons. And then Call the Spirit Dragons. Dragons we control have indestructible. At the beginning of our upkeep for each color, we can put a +1/+1 counter on a dragon you control of that color. And if we put a counter on 5 different dragons this way, we get to win the game. So a really fun upside to work towards winning the game while buffing our dragons at the same time. And that indestructible is huge, helping to protect our board. I think the biggest thing we need to care about in our 5-color deck is how do we fix our colors. And we're approaching it a couple different ways. We have a couple mana, 1 or 2 ramp spells like Rampant Growth lets us go get a basic land. We do have a couple basic lands in the deck that we can go get that way. But some of the best ones we're going to see are Nature's Lore or Skyshroud Claim or 3 Visits that let us go get forest cards. And we're playing all the triomes we can that have forest typings to allow us to go get those and really fix our colors with our lands. But we also have a way to fix our colors now with our lands. Things like Chromatic Lantern taps for a mana of any color and lets all of our lands do that. Lena Guild Pact gives all of our lands every basic land type and gives all of our creatures all colors, which could be really useful, again, for Cult Spirit Dragons or some other things. But again, having all of our lands be every type means they can tap for every color, and then we can make sure we have access to all of our right colors that way. We have a lot of ways to give all of our dragons haste. Things like Dragon Tempest gives all of our dragons haste, and then when they come in, and then doles out some damage every time a dragon comes in. Temur Ascendancy gives all our creatures haste and lets us draw cards when dragons come in. Rhythm of the Wild stops our dragons from being countered and gives them our choice of a counter or haste when they come in. That's really useful because then if you have like Rhythm and Temur Ascendancy or Tempest down at the same time, you can give out counters and haste, right? Really nice way to get our dragons in and get them moving. But I've said before on the show, and I'll say it again, no deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at Tiamat. And going into testing, I think there's a lot of other dragons we could consider. I was using Ribaz of the Claw in the budget version. I feel like it could be a fun thing here, adding some mana for your dragons here. Boneheart Dracosaur is another nice choice, exiling a couple cards off your library at the start of your turn, giving you a treasure and just extending your hand for more value. We could look at something like Morophon to come in and reduce the cost of our dragon spells and give all of our dragons a buff. There's so much we can consider. I think we've kind of hit the who's who of dragons. But it'd be fun to see what else we can find, right, to fit into the dragons in our deck. But let's get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtests on our channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not to show off our best plays, but it's to get in some game scenarios and see how we can set up our board state with our average hands. Here we're keeping a 4-lander with Herald's Horn, Assassin's Trophy, Removal, and Selvala. Really like Selvala. It's one of those ones that can really start adding some good mana for us. So here I think I'm going to go ahead and crack this landscape for a forest just to make sure we can play Selvala, because we can't do it off the unclaimed territory, because obviously we're going to choose a dragon for that. But now we can get Selvala, can start adding mana, where X mana of any color, where any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures we control. We have the Jesk as well, which could get us up to what, 8 mana this turn? So I guess we could. We can't do Tiamat this turn, but we could get something like Brood Colors. Well, it's any 1, 2, 3. I don't think we can get Tiamat down this turn, because if I do this and this nets me red, here's the white. This could turn one of the red into like a blue or a green. Yeah, I don't think I can get all enough necessary colors. But I am at 5 mana. we could go, Herald's Horn plus Dragon Tempest. Start of our turn, we go to the top. If it's a dragon, it goes to our hand. If not, so now we're at 4, 5, 5, but we get a reduction of 1. If I do this now, I kind of feel like it's worth it to get something like a Tarka or Brood Scourge, right? Broodcaller Scourge in. Just so we can start putting other things. Because my thought is, get something like the Scourge in, put a Gwenna down just for more mana next turn, right? Start of our next turn, not a dragon. But now, right, this can tap for 2. This can tap for 5. So that's the 7 for Tiamat. This untaps. It's only 6, but Tiamat's going to now let us go get all of our dragons. And man, do we have so many choices. The nice part about us having haste is now we can really go get all the key dragons we want, and start really taking advantage of some big value, especially copying dragons. I think I'll just go get something like Ureni. I think those are the 5 dragons I'll go get. So we go into here for 5, 6, 7. So I've got 4, 5, 6 mana this turn with a reduction of 1. So I can play another big dragon. My thought is Ancient Copper Dragon, right? Because now it can attack and get us all those treasures. This untaps again. We go ahead and attack. Roll that d20. As long as we have no blocks, and we get a 6. Not super great, but again, remember, we have the Broodcaller Scourge of the Tiamat, and this they can start putting down things. So Tiamat could put down something like Miram. Copper Dragon could put something down, or like Clouth, that could put down Miram. And now we're just putting these things onto the battlefield, dealing more damage with the Dragon Tempest. Actually, I'd probably have this go first, because then I could get double the copies of Clouth, right? And now, right, unless our opponents have a way to just nuke the board, we're in great shape. Next turn we play, Ureni and the Silver Dragon, and just, farm this Dragon Tempest for value. Maybe we find a way to try to go get something like Scourge of Valkus to help keep our damage coming. But I like that. That's a good playtest, and I think we can kind of move into the next one. Here we're keeping a 1/2 3-lander with Temur Ascendancy. There's the Call of Spirit Dragons. There's Miram, and then a Cultivate. So the Cultivate can actually go help us fix up some of our colors here. And I think that's what we want to do. What are we missing? I know the Path of Ancestry can actually tap for anything. So we're missing an island, and I think plains make the most sense, just to be safe. The plains will go into our hand. Now we're at 5 colors exactly. Oh, would a red have made more sense? So we could get, because if right now I can't play Temur Ascendancy and Dragon Tempest, right? Ascendancy feels like it makes more sense because I can get the card draw. Oh, that's brutal. I wish we would have hit the land. I guess we'll just get Call of Spirit Dragon in. There we go. There's a dragon we can play. It comes in with haste. Sorry, we don't draw because it's only power 3. Again, we're just trying to work our way up. We're getting brutalized with land drops. Play the Invasion of Tark here. Flip it over with Twin Flame attacking it. And that'll draw us off of Temur Ascendancy. And now 3, 4, 5, 6. We're just, again, 1 off of Tiamat. But that's okay. I mean, we've still got lots of things we can put in. There's Miram. Is it our end step? Getting of our upkeep. So we'll put the counter on this one this time. Miram comes in with haste, right? Draws us a card. Again, take our attacks this turn. Coming into the next turn, we'll put a counter here and here. Now we're at 7, 8 mana. The Astral Dragon gave me. I love the fact that Call of Spirit Dragons isn't legendary, meaning we could basically put Astral Dragon and copy it if we wanted to, but I think Old Gnawbone makes the most sense here. It's going to net us a ton of mana, and when we attack this turn, because they're going to both have haste, right? And now we'll just be able to, I think, just pop off from here. We don't have any way to go get a specific dragon, but let's say they all hit just as it sits. You're talking about 8, 16, 24, 31, 35 doubled, right? Because of Twin Flame Tower. So you're talking about 70 treasures. There's no way in this world we can't win at this point with 70 treasures. You use Dragon Tempest, and we have at least 4 dragons in hand, plus all the card draw that's going to come off the Ascendancy. With Miram making copies of dragons, we just start doubling dragons in. Remember that damage is doubled because of Twin Flame, and we're just in a great spot. Let's get into playtest number 3. Keeping a 1, 2, 3 lander with Soul Ring. Not too bad. There's the Dragon Lord Serpent to help kind of reduce our dragons by a little bit. So we'll get that in turn 1. Turn 2, we see a Lantern, which I think makes a ton of sense. Get the Servant in this turn. Now we're happy, right? Because all of our mana's right just getting expounded. I mean, we could go Hellkite Courser into Tiamat, right? Attack with the Tiamat, right? That turn. And then now this would lead to Tiamat and let us go get our choices. Remember, because right, this isn't just tapping for colors anymore. It's tapping for everything because of the Lantern. And now I think we can just, again, we can go get whatever you want. I mean, the nice part now is with picking 5 dragons from your deck, you can just go get what you want. I'm just trying to go what specifically I want. I like Miram. I like Tear the Peaks with Miram, right? Because you're making the copies, that's more damage. And I guess maybe Gnawbone, right, for the mana. Put him into our hand. We can just get rid of one of our dragons. And then here, right, 7 mana again. If I go Clouth, I'm netting, 17 mana? Seems pretty useful. Just do that. We could go Gnawbone and net only 13 mana. But this to me makes the most net sense. Attack, net 17 mana. 6 of it for Miram. 5 of it for Terror. We got 6 mana left. Oh, well, they each cost 1 less, so we'd have enough for Copper. Just dealing out a ton of dragons, and then I think what we have to do is just untap at that point. And, on turn 5, that's a pretty backbreaking right start for what was that, a turn 4 Tiamat? But we'll go one more 5-lander here, keeping Scavenger and Twin Flame Tyrant. This is an interesting one because we should have access to all of our colors when it's all said and done with that landscape. I guess I'll go crack the landscape now, get the black, which is the only color we don't have access to right now. Get the Jungle Shrine in. Again, nothing to do that turn. Turn 4, we've just got a couple plays next turn, so we'll stave off here. Turn 5, get the Gold Span in, get the treasure, right? Allowing us to get ourselves up for next turn here. Now we're at 8 mana with the treasure. Clouth doesn't seem like a terrible idea. Because it'll net us, 8 mana this turn and the treasure? Whereas if I just slam Tiamat, we're just slamming Tiamat. Because now on attack, we're netting all 8 of that mana, and we have the treasure, so that's 10 total. Just trying to think of how do we use all the mana we can, right? And then this turn, now we have more than enough for Tiamat from our hand. With the Tempest having everything have haste, we go get the Tiamat, we're going to net, 19 mana here. Go get our dragons to our hand and we can choose. I know it's a little bit reductive, but that's kind of the point with Tiamat is you're picking the dragons you want from your hand. Your just goal is to get to Tiamat and then have enough mana right to do things after it. But I'd love to know, what do you think of Tiamat down in the comment section below? The main thing I did to shave off budget was not going with the fetch lands. I could have made this deck $300 more expensive to go all fetch lands, all shocks and all that. I just didn't. I think this mana base is better enough and it lets you use your money for the dragons, the thing where you want to use your money. But I can understand, if your interpretation of no budget is no restrictions at all, then, you may want to see fetch lands, tutors, and things like that, and then you can take this up into level, bracket 4 and just do what you want. But thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.